Happy New Year to my card making friends. Welcome to January's Zest for Life card kit assembly workshop. We are going to be making 12 really beautiful, festive, bright, cheerful cards, and I've got everything ready to go. My instructions are printed, my kit materials are here and out of the bag. I also have my guillotine 12-inch trimmer and the accordion pocket file. So this is going to keep us organized while we trim all of the materials required for all 12 of our cards. We'll start out first, as is our routine, by putting all the paper that we've included in your kit in a specific trimming order. So the first papers I want you to find are the lime color. So that's pretty easy to find. We got lime, and then you need one orange. I'm just going to stack these on my trimmer base. One light yellow. So there are two yellows in here. One is more of a gold color, so just make sure you have that brighter yellow shade. And the next piece that we're going to be using is the dark yellow, so you can see the difference between the light and dark. Then we're going to find just a plain white, and make sure it's white on both sides. And then next, a print. I love this lemony print. It's just so beautiful. Find your next lemon print, the other light yellow, then a lime, then orange. Finally, we'll take the cut aparts. Let's find the one that has the lime feeling good on it in these big green bold shapes, and then this other sheet of cut aparts should wrap up everything we included in your kit as far as paper. And I'm going to begin right on page 1 of the instructions. We actually have an interesting approach to trimming the papers this month. We're going to trim 4 papers the exact same way, then 2 the same, 4 more the same, and then our cut aparts. So there are essentially only 3 trimming diagrams used to create all 12 cards. And I think that really makes this whole formula very upcyclable. So I hope you use it more than once. I'm going to take the lime paper here and check the grain direction, because we will be folding the paper. We want to fold with the grain. So hold on an edge. I can tell this paper is very stiff going in this direction. Grab it by the other edge, and I can see that it's very flimsy. So the grain is running from top to bottom, and that's how we want this placed in the trimmer. I'm going to take a second sheet and do the same little test. It seems kind of stiff to me. Oh, no, this is the grain. The grain is running this way. So I'll put that in the trimmer, going north to south, dipping easily top to bottom. So I'll stack these papers, and let's start out by trimming at 10 3/4. So if you're new to the trimmer, just make sure your paper's flush at the top. Every column, every vertical column is 1/4 inch. So there's 10, 10 1/4, 10 1/2, 10 3/4. Okay, then we're going to have you slide down to 5 1/2. This entire strip is used to make one of the card bases, but it needs to be scored first. Anything requiring scoring, I'm just going to set that aside in a separate pile. And now pick up the next wider piece. This is actually 5 1/4 inches wide. And let's trim at 11 3/4, 10 1/4, 7 1/2, and 3 1/2. Okay, those are some strange measurements, but it will all make sense in the end. The 2 rectangles you ended with in your trimmer base, those go in pocket B. And then everything else you trimmed, which is a set of large, medium, and small rectangles, all of these will go in pocket A. And there will be 2 tiny little strips. You can set those in pocket D if you like. Those are just extras. And then you can take this last strip, both of them at the same time, and trim horizontally at 10. I will take the strip, and that will go in pocket A, and then we have 2 little scraps for our D pocket. We're going to repeat that whole process. So again, take the paper, grab by the edge, make sure your grain is running top to bottom. Paper should dip easily. That's more flexible than this. So that's how it goes in. We will trim again at 10 3/4. And 5 1/2. this goes in our pile to be scored, and we're going to do all those weird trimming measurements that I don't even trust, but they did work. Okay, so we're going to make that really tiny scrap. We'll cut it 11 3/4, 10 1/4, 7 1/2, and 3 1/2. Okay, this rectangle, pocket B. All the rest, we have the graduating rectangles here, pocket A. And then we have our scraps, throw those in D for the didn't use. And then that final strip we need to trim at 10. This is going to go in pocket A, and some scraps for D. If I'm going too fast, please just use the settings on your YouTube to slow me down to either 0.75 or 0.5. That will really make it a lot easier to follow if you're newer. Checking the grain here. This looks most bendy, so I'm going to do dips easily, top to bottom. And I'm going to take the other print and do the same thing. So bending top to bottom. Both of these will trim at the same time. This is a new formula now, so we'll start out by trimming at 9. And then slide down to 4 1/2. Rotate the two pieces, and we'll make another cut at 11 3/4, and then 10 3/4. These pieces will become card bases. They need to be scored, so I'll set them aside. Then there's this little rectangle. It's currently 1 by 4 1/2. I'm just going to trim this horizontally at 4. To remove that little scrap off the end, sometimes it's kind of hard, can be hard to see if you're up here. So if you want, you can bring this edge down to the 4-inch line on this right here, so you can see a little bit better. And then this will be placed in pocket A. Lots going into A today. We did create just a few scraps, the skinny little strips and the itty bitty rectangles. Not much for scraps in this set so far. Now the very next pair of print white combo is it's a repeat of what we just did. So 11 3/4, 10 3/4. Set this aside to be scored. The 1-inch strip gets trimmed at 4. And you pocket that in A. And we do have just the minuscule scraps. Those could probably just go in a circular file if you have that one nearby. And then the last strip we're going to trim at 9 1/2 and 4 3/4. All right, these 4 rectangles all the same, pocket B. Pocket D, I don't have a plan for them right now. That was everything on page 1. So it was 4 repetitions of this formula and 2 repetitions of this one. Our next one, 4 repetitions of this. So I will take the print, make sure it dips easily top to bottom, and the yellow, dipping easy top to bottom. So all the formulas have the dip going north to south. I like to keep the print on top since sometimes the ink can make it a little bit slippery, and this works a little bit better. So our first cut is at 7, and then rotate and cut at 10. Okay, this larger piece is scored, so I'll set that aside. And this 2 by 7 we'll trim at 5 1/2. Pocket B on this one. And a scrap for the didn't use pile. Now we have this other longer strip. It's 5 by 12 right now. We'll trim it at 8 3/4 and 5 1/2. This 5 1/2-inch piece does get scored. I'll set that aside. Then you have some rectangles here. The first two, they're both, you made 2 sets of rectangles and they're both the same size. So this first one gets trimmed at 4 3/4. Pocket C. The second set of rectangles will trim at 3 1/2. And that also goes in pocket C. We got some scraps for the D pocket. And we're going to repeat all this one more time. So checking grain, dipping top to bottom. I can just see already how easily that wants to bend in there. So we get the lime green and the orange next. Once again, trimming at 7. Then horizontally at 10. And this will go in the pile to be scored, followed by the strip we'll trim at 5.5. Pocket B. And a scrap. Next, once again, the 5 by 12 will be trimmed at 8 3/4 and 5.5. Score pile. Take one set of these rectangles, trimmed at 4 3/4. Pocket C. The other set of rectangles we trim at 3.5. Pocket C. Some small unused pieces to get rid of there. Just little tiny bits at the very end of the journey, right? Now we have our cut aparts. So in this case, again, this is newish at Club Scrap, but we do have this little plus sign in the corner. The idea here is to line up the edge of your blade with that sign on the top and the bottom of this sheet to remove about 1/8 of an inch of excess from our cut apart sheet. This allows you to be much more accurate with your trimming. And then we're going to line that up again on the next corner after rotating just one turn. Remove another piece, same on this edge, lining up. You can also confirm I'm at 12 inches here. And then on my next rotation, I can also start by looking here and seeing if everything lines up here. And it does. And I've just successfully removed the perimeter of this sheet. So we start out with a nice and square with our first cuts. Place this into the trimmer so that the oranges and limes are on the right edge in this narrow strip. And our first cut's at 10 3/4. Then 7.5. And 4 1/4. Rotate, and then nice easy cuts here, just 9, 6, and 3. 9, 6, 3. All 4 of these rectangles go in pocket A, and then we can take the next strip and we're going to do the same routine. 9, 6, and 3. 9, 6, 3. All 4 of these tag shapes go in pocket C. This next strip, we've got a lot of cuts to make here. We'll start at 10.5, then 8 3/4, 7, 5 1/4, 3.5, 1 3/4. Great. Now, all of the rectangles, except that one, all of these other ones, they're going to go in pocket B, and this is going to get trimmed in half. Now, the thing is, this is 3 1/4 inches wide, so it's not going to trim at a measurement you will love. It's going to be trimmed at 1 5/8. There you go, 1 5/8. Take the green one. This is going to go in pocket A, and this one goes in pocket C. Originally those were extras, but I found homes for them, so we'll cut this next one at 10 5. Gather up these 2 strips of equal size for pocket C, and then this slice goes in A. Okay, now we're going to repeat the same process to remove the perimeter according to the little guidelines that we have here for you. So just line up the little plus sign with the edge of your blade. What I like is that you can actually see the edge of the blade on this trimmer, just at the upper corner here. And give it a rotation all the way around, removing that 1/8 inch. When we start to trim this, I want the limes again, this narrow strip, to be on the far right. We'll cut at 10 3/4, 7, and 3.5. Now rotate and trim at 11 1/4, 9.5, and 4 3/4. These two larger pieces go in pocket A, and then we have a little sentiment going into pocket B. And I never ended up using this guy, so I'm just going to throw him in D for just in case. We're going to repeat that same thing. So 11 1/4, 9.5, 4 3/4. Same pockets too. Pocket A for those. Pocket B for the little thinking of you sentiment, and then D for the scrap. Now, here we go with this strip. We're going to trim at 10, 7.5, 5, 2.5. All of these rectangles end up in pocket A. Lots of things going in A, I know. This one gets trimmed at 1 7/8. Yes, 1 7/8. Again, a weird measurement, but we just wanted to make these nice and big if we could. So basically you're just trimming it in half. Both of these end up in pocket A. Finally, one more strip, 10 and 5. 10, 5. The two 2x5s, or let's see, 5-inch pieces. They're 1 1/4 by 5. Those are going to go in C, and here we have a piece going in C as well. Okay, that is the end of all the trimming for a dozen cards. It only took us, let's see, in live footage I have 17 minutes here, and I'm sure we'll be editing some of that out, so it's not too bad, not too much time. Considering how many cards we're about to make, I'm going to set my trimmer aside and grab my score pal. All right, these are all the papers that we've set aside to be scored. So I'm just leaving them in the stack in the order that they were placed in the stack. And I have this little 5 by 5.5. So it's really important that you place this into the score pal horizontally so that the measurement on the right here is going to be 5.5. And we'll score it 3.5 and 5. So you'll know if you don't have it in there the right way. 3.5 and 5. And then just beneath some larger pieces, you'll find 2 more. So there's a total of 4 getting scored at 3.5 and 5. I score on the print side facing up in that situation. 3.5 and 5. If you want, you can place this into pocket C and pick up the next piece. This is currently 7 by 10. So you can, it's nice, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but the measurements run on the left edge of your score pal as well. And I think they just thought of everything. So here we go, scoring at 5, 6.5, 8, and 9.5. We'll set that aside and then just grab the next 7 by 10. Same thing, 5, 6.5, 8, 9.5. We could do that 2 more times. 5, 6.5, 8, 9.5. And again, 5, 6.5, 8, 9.5. Excellent. Now, these will also be used in card set C, so I'll add them to that pocket. Next, we have some smaller pieces. They're either going to be in the plain white or the print, and they all get scored the same way. Your 2 numbers are 2 1/4 and 8.5. So just repeat that for all 4 of these pieces at 2 1/4 and 8.5. These are used in card set B. Finally, our last ones. Now, I don't have any single folds for you this month. This is scored at 4 1/4 and 10 1/4. Then I want you to flip and score at 7 1/4. Set it aside, we'll repeat that. So again, 4 1/4, 10 1/4. Flip, 7 1/4. 2 more times. 4 1/4, 10 1/4. Flip, 7 1/4, 4 1/4, 10 1/4, flip, 7 1/4. We are going to be accordion folding these. That's why we did the flip. And this will be used in pocket A, and the 12-inch paper is too wide for the pocket, so you can just file it at an angle if you like. We'll be emptying that shortly. Anyway, we're done scoring. Let's turn to page 3 of our instructions, where we can get a little bird's eye view of each of the 4 cards we'll make in this same style, and then take everything out of pocket A. We're filling it and filling it, so now it's time to empty it. All right, we usually begin by distributing the largest bases. So we'll start out with this dark yellow, and then the green, followed by the orange and the bright yellow. So those are, what a pretty way to start our cards. Okay, we have a lot of pieces to distribute. I'll try to get them organized a little bit by size. I'm going to start it with these panels. Okay, so a large orange panel, a dark yellow, a bright yellow, and then lime. So that's the largest of the 3 different sizes of panels we'll distribute. Next, we're going to do a bright yellow. We're basically just distributing all the colors. Then orange, then the lime, and then the dark yellow. For the smallest strips, we'll just finish up the color. So green, light yellow, dark yellow, and orange. So every color is represented on the cards. And we still have these long, skinny strips. So I just chose to match the base of the card with the color of the strip. So dark yellow, lime, orange, and light yellow. You can do whatever colors you want, naturally. Then we have all of these sentiments, all of these cut aparts, and they graduate in size as well, just like those other panels. So the largest one we'll do, because hey, free lemons on these 2 cards. And then we're going to do orange, you glad we're friends on those. Now we go to the next smaller ones. Keep them, go on those 2, and then lime feeling good on these. Then we have when life gives you lemons on those 2. You did a pair, and then sorry you doing. Okay, so here we have these narrow strips. Put the print on these 2, and then we have just plain white here. Okay, you should have 4 little citrus pieces. I seem to have misplaced one, so we put the orange slice here. There should be a green one there. I know it will turn up because it was there, and then this darker orange piece and the lighter orange there. So that's the distribution of all of the pieces that were preserved for us in pocket A. And so we'll make one together and the rest pull together the same exact way. So I'm going to stack up card 2, 3, and 4, set that aside, and here we have card A. This is a very easy assembly. You're just going to love how quick and simple this is. So we have a bump of our score line, and as we've probably learned along the way, the bump of the score should be placed on the inside of our fold. So we bury the bump. Here, the bump is on this side, so I need to put that on the inside of the fold. And here's my bump, so I fold inward. I hope that made sense. And now I have this really cool sort of accordion style or triple flap card. If you want, you can then burnish the folds just to make sure your card doesn't pop open. We've already folded with the grain, so the card kind of wants to cooperate with you here. Now next, I can take this largest panel. I'll apply some of my favorite adhesive, and that should just center right into the middle of the back flap of this card. Okay, so then make sure this is closed, and then you can apply adhesive to that medium-sized panel. And while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and apply it to the smaller panel. So the medium should fit on the front of this flap here. Make sure it's the front side. And then close, and the smallest panel fits. Isn't this clever? I love this. So remember, those diagrams I gave you help you assemble this basically from 4 different colors of 12 by 12 paper result in this finished card, which is kind of cool. Now, we have this largest, because hey, free lemons. So that's going to be placed centered here. And if you want to get out your ruler and just double check you have this physically perfect, no harm in doing that. But here's what's nifty about how these nest. So I can close this, and this is going to end up resting just on that medium-sized panel only. And you can kind of line up the outer edge of this piece with the frame on the previous one. It fits right inside that. What you have to be aware of here is where you place your adhesive. So do not put any adhesive on the far right edge of this panel, or it's going to stick to the previous layer. So while this is closed, all you have to do is visually line up my cut apart with the green frame on the previous cut apart. That's kind of why you want that first one leveled. I just eyeballed it. I have my camera in the way of my head, so I can't really bird's eye view it perfectly. Then just close this flap. Once again, this will center, and you have to be even more careful about where you put adhesive. There's just this little strip that will allow for adhesive, so keep track of what side you're putting that on. Don't ask me how I know that's important. Okay, so lining it up inside that frame of the previous piece. And now you have this adorable 3-flap card with a 3-part sentiment. We still have the remaining strip here. So what I usually do when I'm doing a belly band like this is center it so that the edge of the strip is right in the front and center of the card. Then make a gentle crease. We have trimmed this with the grain, and then make sure it lines up nice when it meets back on the other side. Now notice how this seam goes past the center. That's okay. If you just flip-flop them, now this is back in the center, and that's where we want it. So what you can do, what I tend to do, is put a little adhesive all the way on the edge of this one, and then adhesive while this one is kind of open. So this is on the top, this is on the inside, and just bring it back. So now the seam is in the middle of my card. We can even cover that with this printed strip. Gives it a very sweet look. Now in my D pocket, I do have some, that's not going to fit, but this one will. So I have this scrap. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this to fit my little orange here. So I basically trimmed it at 2 1/4, and now it fits my orange perfectly. So I can, this is kind of a neat thing too, take the orange piece and put it behind and centered behind the belly band. Then take the topper and place it on top. So basically you've made a sandwich. And now this nests right on that. And you've got like this major layered card. So beautiful, so funny. I just love this. It makes me really happy. This card is so cheerful. I think we can all use a little bit of New Year cheer. All the rest of the cards in this set pulled together the same way, but I did have some different finishing touches I'll share with you. And they're minor. So the one we made together is this one, right? Same exact card. And then the one just like it with the same sentiment, but this time it has the green. I did find a green scrap in my D pocket, but I had to make it fit, I had to trim a little off that little lime piece, which I was missing, but I'm sure it will turn out because it was there. Then one minor thing here, a difference on this sour you doing, lime feeling good, orange you glad we're friends, is on this particular banner, I did have the white matte, not the printed one, and I didn't nest this onto anything. So it's just this white paper, the white cut apart. And then I wrapped all the way around the band with the adorable orange and white twine we included in this kit. So real easy to assemble. As you can see, these super fun cards are going to be loved by anyone who gets them. And again, I believe if you just follow, if you just follow step 1 instructions, that will make that card again and again and again. So I had 4 sheets, 4 interactive exchanged colors, and that worked perfect. So it's like a standalone formula. And again, that's the advantage of watching the video. I know sometimes you probably are hearing things that are review or that don't pertain to you, but I love to share tips like this. So get the most value out of your membership by tuning into these videos as often as you can. So now I can match up my prototype with the other pieces required to make 3 more cards just like this, and we'll empty pocket B. I will also turn to page 4 of my instructions to figure out how we'll distribute all of these fun pieces. Let's see, we'll start out with a white base, 2 of them, and then we'll take the 2 printed card bases. So those are the 4 cards to start with. Then each one gets a rectangle, a larger rectangle. So we'll put the green here and the orange here, and a bright light yellow, and then the dark yellow on that one. Each of these will also receive a narrow strip. So we'll go with the print, the green, the orange, and then the bright yellow. So we're just, again, distributing all of the colors. Then on the inside of this card, I'm going to stick with this print on both of these. And we'll use the white on this one, since there's quite a bit of print happening already with the base of the card. Now we have just the innies and the outies. Then we'll use May This Year Be the Best Year Ever, along with Happy Birthday. There we go. That's one. And then Squeeze the Day, along with Happy Celebrating. I like that. Very cheerful. You're Simply the Zest, along with Thank You. And then look on the bright side, along with Thinking of You. So I like these sentiments. And again, if you want to have more flexibility in how your cards are distributed to people and for various occasions, leave that inner sentiment off, but keep it nearby so that you can, switch it out if you want to switch, make it a different occasion. So I'll stack up the card materials for 2, 3, and 4, and then we're going to work on card style 1 together. This is such a fun and yet easy card. The first thing I want you to do is situate the card base. And this is white, it can be hard to see. Maybe I'll grab my cutting mat here so we have a little contrast with our work surface. And place the card so that the bump of the score is facing up. And then ideally we can find the center of the score line by placing a grid ruler across our card base. And I'm getting a reading of 2 1/4 inches on each side. Here's my score line, and there's the 0. So there's my center right there. You do not need to mark it if you don't want to, but that's what we're looking for. 2 1/4. 2 1/4 means that this is the perfect center of our card. Now what I wanted to do is bring this bottom corner up to the 0. And it's pretty easy to do with the help of the ruler being right there. And that's going to create a nice 45-degree angle. Now, however it makes you comfortable, but we need to bring the other corner up to the center as well. And there we go. Now I have a nice, you can even see it on my cutting mat, a nice triangular point, and then this will be folded in eventually. If you want, you can take your adhesive and add some to the triangular points that you made, and then just stick those down. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, 2 1/4 was my measurement on the edges in order to have the 0 in the center here. And bring the corner up to the 0 to make that 90-degree fold. And then you just need to match the other one. And again, rotating the paper just felt a little more comfortable to me. And I will once again tack down the triangular flaps so they're out of my way. And then you bring them in and you have this sort of envelope shape. Works really well. Now what I did on my card samples was I ran the triangular shape through my embossing machine with a citrus themed texture folder. So that's completely optional. If you don't have a texture folder, not a big deal. Or maybe you don't have a citrus one, but you have something else that might coordinate. It's totally up to you if you want to do this. It's just kind of a kick it up a notch idea for you, and the card will be fine without it. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this one not embossed. Then we'll take this next printed piece. I'm going to have it plain side up, and I'm going to use my cutting mat to even help me find an inch up from the bottom edge. So every cube on my cutting mat is a 1/2 inch. So right here, if I put the ruler an inch up, 1, 2 cubes, and then I can once again bring the triangle up to the edge of the ruler, make that crease, and I can do the same on the other corner. It just really helps me find the center, right? The 2 inches, or the 1 inch is the good measurement for that. I'm going to repeat on the other side, so I'll just find my inch up from the bottom edge. I hope that makes sense. If I bring this corner up to the ruler's edge, and that's going to make a point at a 45-degree angle. And then I'm just rotating it so I'm comfortable. I'm right-handed. You might want to do the exact opposite, like fold the left corner up first. And then I'll tack down the triangular tips. Okay, now on the front of this really beautiful and uniquely shaped panel, I'm going to attach the sentiment and try to get that centered. Left to right, top to bottom. Now, what I want to do next is make a slit in this panel that is 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the sentiment and 1/4 of an inch from the left and right edges. So I will use my ruler for that. So I'm going to go up 1/8 of an inch, which is 1 cube on my ruler. Then I'll take my craft knife. This cube here, this line is the start of 1/4 inch from the edge to the other edge, 1/4 inch away. So that's my slit. And it's actually just going through 1 layer of paper. See how close it is to my triangular folds? So again, I'm just adding a slit. The measurement from here to the slit is 1/8 of an inch. The measurement from the edge, the top edge, to here is 1/4 of an inch on each side. Now what's neat about this is I can insert the tip of this side of the card into the slot. Then this tip gets attached to the left edge. It gives it just a really cool look. So all I need to do is apply some adhesive to this triangle, none here, only to the other one. And just make sure that's on. Center that onto that triangular fold. So now that is held closed by the slit and this triangular flap. For the inside of the card, you just open this up, and of course we can nest this panel onto the larger green panel and then center this on the inside. Of course you can use your grid ruler to help with that centering if you would like, or in my case right now I'm eyeballing it. And one of the card samples I did it at an angle, kind of gives the card a pretty unique look. And this seals up nice. Actually, don't forget your inner sentiment. Again, you can leave it off if you're not sure you're going to need a happy birthday. You might need some other, kind of other card. You can always use a different sentiment or swap things around, whatever you like. Okay, now for finishing touches, I did a couple of things. You can take this adorable gingham and make 2 loops, bunny ears. Crisscross the ears, bring one ear around to the back and back out through the loop that was formed, and pull. Then you just need to futz with it a little bit till the bow size is something you like. Take scissors. I do have a dedicated ribbon scissors designed for fabric. And then you can attach that to this left edge. It kind of brings the eye there. I really like that. Then I took some of our bookbinding glue and my needle tip applicator and applied it to the citrus slice charm. And I just placed that right on the tip of the point here on the left side of my card. This I can maybe use a glue dot to attach. Or maybe I'll just go ahead and use my bookbinding glue. As long as I have it out, it is effective on ribbon. That right there. So sweet. May this year be the best year ever. Don't we all want that? Okay, let's take another look at my finished cards. So of course we just made this one together. You can again see the only difference is the raised surfaces, and I think that does add a lot to this white card base. Even on the inside, it just kind of makes it look really nice. So I did the embossing, of course, after I folded around. It kind of gives it a double layer and almost a deeper impression. That was the first one. The second one in the set is the same type of a structure, same assembly, same embossing, same embellishing, just a different greeting. Now a little bit of a change in the other two in this set, and it's not much of a change. So here we have the one, same embellishment, different ribbon, just I tied a simple knot and then attached it on there. The same type of closure with the slot made with the craft knife. On the inside, I attached this at an angle, and then I added some of the adorable little lemon-colored dots from this. You could also just keep it really neat and tidy, maybe add them here, add a row of them here if you wanted to. That'd be really sweet. That's, you know, of course, designer's choice. It all is designer choice. And then finally, the fourth card in the set has the nice orange, again with a smattering of those sweet little dots. This will make anyone smile. Love it. Our third and final card style can be found in pocket C. There are a lot of pieces in there as well. Let's begin by turning to our final page of instructions, page 5, and we'll deal with the largest card bases first. We'll start it with our print, and then the orange, the green, and the light yellow card bases. So those are the 4 bases. Then we're going to interchange some smaller scored pieces. So we have the light yellow, we have green, an orange, and a print. Now we have panels for each of these pieces. So we're going to go with orange and the print. You can see the interchange of colors happening. The light yellow and then lime. Then we have, eventually we'll have some pockets to fill with some tags. So each tag has a mat. So we're going to put the green here, the light yellow, the print, and orange. Again, all colors represented. I think that's so awesome. So this first tag, when life gives you lemons, add salt and tequila. And that gets a companion sentiment. Shake, 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 shake. I could just squeeze you along with some limes with an orange frame that matches the card base. Another, I could just squeeze you with the other, let's see, I'm doing oranges here. And then what a year this week has been. Thinking of you, along with some limes. And then 2 of the cards got just a little accent. So this one gets that orange slice, and this one, well, this one gets this. And then I'm going to distribute these gold envelopes. So I'm going to make the one that's kind of already started there. And then each one of these gets one of these envelopes. And we will stack up, as is our routine now, the 3 remaining, card number 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll work with card set number 1 to assemble this. They all get assembled the same way for the most part. So we'll begin with our printed scored piece. The bumps of the scores are on the plain side of the paper. So what I want you to do is just fold on each score line, and every time you do make a crease, just make sure that the edges are aligning, like this edge here. Add your crease, another edge to line up, and then this tiny little flap. Now what we want to do with this is basically make a cube shape. And I always equate this to when you buy like chapstick or something and it has the product packaging. It hangs from here, you have your description, and your product is inside this little square thing. So this tab will be adhered to the back wall of the card base. The best way to do this though really is to do it while it's flat. So if you can find the spot where your card is completely flat and that tab is isolated, so when it makes its shape, you can see exactly where this tab is going to go. So if I put adhesive here, bend on that fold, the tab is going to be right where I need it in order for it to become a box shape, a cube. Okay, so you can do it a couple ways. You can do whatever kind of adhesive you happen to be using. I'm using my liquid glue because my ATG tape is the same width as the tab. Then I'm folding on this fold here, the second fold, and then bringing that up. It's just always easier to make shapes with paper if the paper can be flat. That way you know you're accurately placing that tab so that when it lifts up, it forms that cube. Nice, right? Okay, now there's another piece in here that has 2 score lines. Bury the bumps of those scores. Same deal. Make sure you make sure your edges are lining up nice, left to right. Now this is going to be the front panel of the card. It's going to, bottom edge of this is going to be lined up with the bottom edge of your cube. And then this tab will also be attached to the back wall of the card. So when it's open, it looks like this, and when it's mailed, it looks like that. So remember I said it's just nice to be able to adhere things when they're flat. So I'm going to begin by attaching this piece to this edge of my card. So I'll put adhesive on the back. And then I can flatten the card. Perfect. And then I'm going to double check. So when my card is flat, this is how it's going to look in the envelope. And then this tab has to be back there. So I'm going to pick up my tab for a moment and just add some adhesive to this. And then fold it back again and close my card. Then I can just add that adhesive, burnish it onto the back wall of my card base. And again, I'm doing this while it's flat. It's so much easier, but then when I pick it up, it has that dimension and it's sitting exactly where it needs to sit to form this cube shape. And that's my card structure. I love this. And it's just 2 sheets of paper scored creatively to make that awesome shape. Now, before we adhere anything else to anything else, I'm going to take my orange panel. If you wanted to, and in my sample, I have embossed this with that same citrus. You know, as long as you have your embossing equipment out, if you happen to have that, it's a great time to, use it repeatedly. So I just embossed this orange panel on my original sample that you'll see in the instructions with a citrus texture. I am tying a gingham bow around the bottom of the card and just crisscrossing the ribbons a little bit to add some life to it. And I'll trim that. Okay, now I can add my adhesive. So you also have to think about order of assembly. If ribbon's going to be on a panel, make sure you tie it around the panel before you attach it. So I'm going to flatten my card again and center this onto the base. Okay, now a couple of tips here in dealing with these tags. I've got my grid ruler and my cutting mat and my craft knife. I'm going to place the first cube line of my ruler against the artwork on the tag. So 1 cube from the edge and remove that triangle shape. Then I will adhere this to the corresponding panel. Try to center that up as best as you can and repeat. So now I'm 1 cube away from the edge of the cut apart to match this up so nicely. Beautiful. Then I'll take some of this yellow ribbon and I'll make like a 1-inch piece, 2-inch piece rather, fold it in half and staple this to the top. Beautiful. Then you can take one of the envelopes and fold in on the score line. So they are pre-scored for you and those corners are nicely rounded. And you have a choice at this point. You can either have the small flap on top and the large flap on bottom or vice versa, whatever you want. Maybe I'll just try it this way and put the small flap on the bottom, large flap on top. It allows you to see more of the tag. If you want it to be more of a surprise, you put the large flap up and then a little bit more of the sentiment is hidden. Maybe I'll go with that on this particular card. I like that. So I'll burnish that and then we just need to tack down that bottom flap. You can use bookbinding glue, ATG, whatever adhesive you prefer. Okay, and then we can add this to the envelope. What you have to be aware of now is make sure the card is flat before you attach the envelope, because don't ask me why I know this, but if you attach it like this and you close the card, it's not going to fit in your envelope. So it needs to be peeking to the left instead of to the right. And it seems weird, like, oh, that's not going to fit in the envelope, but once the card is flattened, it will. So I'll put some adhesive on the back of my envelope. I'm just kind of going to tuck it in here. It'd be so sweet at an angle. And so when it's on display, this will be, popping up from the left, and that'll be on the right. Now, we have the shake, 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 the other sentiment here. I'll align that with that edge here. That'd be sweet. Lastly, you can take your little dotties and just choose some to randomly place. And they come in lots of different sizes. Like, I love the little bitty ones. They're so cute. You can put them next to a brightly, like a more muted one. Vary the color. Go nuts. Have a good time. These cards make me so happy. I need it. I need that right now. Oh, that's so lovely. Okay, so this is number 1 in a set of 4, and on some of them I added a few extra cut aparts, and again you can kind of see the options in your instructions. So I believe I already used the same element on a different card, so kind of ignore that that's there. I embossed that background. Do you see how neat that looks? I really like the look of that. And this time I used the orange and white twine instead of the gingham ribbon. Here's one more. I just did something a little different again with the ribbon. Still stayed with the same type of ribbon here at the top. Very sweet. This is the one we made together. And then what a year this week has been with that little additional thing added. Again, those cut aparts are just all optional. I just had them, so I used them. Well, that concludes the Zest for Life card making workshop. I hope you liked these 3 unique card structures and that you take my challenge to try to make them not only with these papers, but with those papers from your hopefully ever dwindling stash. I'll see you again next month. Thanks for joining me.